Welcome to Creating Tribal TANF and WIOA Partnerships to Connect Tribal Families to Employment webinar. My name is Jennifer Dillison, and I am from Kaufman Associates. I will be working with Dan as your moderator for today. I'd like to start with explaining a little bit about the webinar interface. You should all see the first slide of the PowerPoint presentation and the Q&A box on the right. We will be answering questions at the end of the webinar, but you can enter a question at any time into the question and answer box. If you need technical assistance during the webinar, please use the Q&A box. Please note that this webinar is being recorded. I will now turn it over to Stan with OFA.
Thanks so much. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's webinar entitled Creating Tribal TANF WIOA Partnerships to Connect Tribal Families to Employment. We are very happy today to have a very experienced slate of presenters to discuss this important topic with you. My name is Stan Couchdahl. I'm the Director of the Division of Tribal TANF Management at the Office of Family Assistance, and I will be facilitating today's webinar. This webinar offers us an opportunity to share the latest research and practices around creating tribal TANF. And if you're joining us from the workforce world, TANF stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. We'll be sharing some of the latest practices around creating tribal TANF, WIOA, which stands for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and other workforce partnerships. These partnerships are critical for better serving tribal families. Tribal TANF, WIOA providers, and other workforce development agencies need to find ways to collaborate in order to connect families to job training opportunities for in-demand jobs in tribal regions. Several tribal organizations are pursuing innovative partnerships with Tribal TANF and WIOA to help move families towards self-sufficiency, and we're going to hear about some of those today. In particular, we're fortunate to have four strong and experienced presenters who will be guiding our conversations about building partnerships. Those presenters include Athena Brown. You'll hear first from her. She is the Division Chief of the Division of Indian and Native American Programs at the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration. She has vast experience working with Indian country in various fields, including employment, training, and economic development. Ms. Brown will discuss recent tribal WIOA news and provide a broad overview of the program. Next, we'll hear from Yvette Yazi, the PALA Site Director, Site Manager, a part of Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association, and Christina Arzadi, the Workforce Development Coordinator at the California Indian Manpower Consortium. Ms. Yazi and Ms. Arzadi will discuss the collaborative efforts of their two tribes, TANF and WIOA programs. Then lastly, we'll hear from Larry Anderson, a job development specialist at Cankdeska Cikana Community College. He is working for a tribal health profession opportunity grant program called Next Step, which provides financial assistance and supportive services that enable students to successfully enter healthcare career pathways. Mr. Anderson will focus his presentation on the collaborations between TANF, WIOA, and One Stop throughout the state of North Dakota. Before jumping into the presentations themselves, we will pause for the first poll question. You should see the poll question displayed on your screen, and we'll take just a moment to provide you with an opportunity to respond. The question being, do participants on your tribal TANF caseload receive WIOA services? Click either yes, no, or whether you're unsure. It looks as though we have a mixed of responses. Most of you are unsure. But then the next largest response group is saying, yes, you do have partnerships. And then there are some in the minority who are not aware of any partnerships. So hopefully this webinar will have something for everybody. For those of you that are already actively partnering, maybe those of you who are not will be inspired to begin doing so. And maybe those of you who are unsure will have some ideas about how to find out whether you are or not, and who you might talk to and where you might look to make that assessment. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Ms. Athena Brown.
Thank you, Stan, for that nice introduction. I have been with the program for about 20 years with the Division of Indian and Native American Programs. In between those 20 years, I also worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs and as a superintendent out at the Western Nevada Agency. So I know what it's like to work with small programs and very large programs. I am also a Northern Paiute from Nevada. We are one of the largest agencies in the Department of Labor. Today's objectives, I would like to talk a little bit about what the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA, means for us. I'd also like to give you all an overview of WIOA, the Section 166 Indian and Native American Programs. I'll also provide you with an idea of some opportunities for working together, and maybe you can also give me some ideas of how you currently work together or your thoughts on how we can better work together. I'll go a little bit over the final rule, the WIOA final rule. Some of you may already know that the Department of Labor collaborated extensively with the Departments of Education and Health and Human Services to draft the joint final rule. And that includes regulations on combined state plans, performance, and the one-stop delivery system. The regulations for the DOL final rule are more applicable to the work that we do with the Indian and Native American program. And that includes the regulations on Title I and the Wagner-Pfizer Act, which was amended by Title III of the WIOA. And for those of you who are not familiar with Wagner-Pfizer, that's the unemployment insurance program. These rules were made publicly available on June 30th, 2016, so that's just fairly recently. They still haven't been published in the Federal Register. However, they are available on our website. So the WIOA General Information Sheet basically provides you with the linkages for the regulations. They have a recent press release, fact sheets, a quick reference guide, and frequently answered questions. And you can view all of those on the website. I would encourage you to go on the website and at least read through the Indian and Native American section, which is at 684. We also have another very informative website. It's the Innovation and Opportunity Network. It's called ION, and it's a community of practice website. It has all of the WIOA developments throughout the Department of Labor, and that's all inclusive of all the programs under the Office of Workforce Investment and other agencies. And then again, on the Division of Indian and Native American website, we have information that's specific to our program, and we also post things that are shared information from other agencies, such as the Department of Education, Health and Human Services. So we get frequent announcements from TANF, and we try to post those on our website. and I've provided you with a linkage there. And those are updated on a daily basis. We frequently post things as they come into our agency. So it's a very, very good website to have access to. So I would encourage everyone to go on those websites and pull down information. As I indicated earlier, the final rule was a collaborative effort between the Departments of Education, Department of Labor, and Health and Human Services. So the joint final rule, it's complicated, but I'll try to simplify it as much as I can. The joint final rule provides guidance for mainly for the state and local workforce development systems. The regulations address the unified strategic planning requirement across all different federal agencies and across programs. It also talks about the core measures, the common performance measures, and the requirements governing the one-stop delivery system. And I'll go into the one-stop delivery system a little later in this presentation. It also emphasizes collaboration at the federal, state, local, and tribal levels to make sure that we're providing a streamlined and coordinated effort. And then the DOL only rule specifically addressed like the Indian and Native American programs and other program-specific regulations. Department of Education is also issuing 3 final rules, and they're issuing these rules separately. So you may or may not have already seen the publication in Federal Register. And I've provided the website for education for the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education, the Rehabilitation Services Administration, and under Health and Human Services, the website for the Peer Technical Assistant, also a very informative website. What WIOA means for us? Well, it's the first major workforce legislation. We transitioned from, for those of you who have been around for a very long time, like myself, we went from the Manpower Development Act to the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act. We went to the Job Training Partnership Act, and then the Workforce Investment Act, and now we're at the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So this legislation has major history, but when I'm speaking to some of those who have been with the programs for a long time, they can relate to some of those other major pieces of legislation. Title I replaced the Workforce Investment Act, as I indicated, and that's for adult dislocated workers and youth, as well as the Indian and Native American programs. Title II amended the Adult Education and Literacy Program. Title III amended unemployment insurance, connecting employers with the qualified job seekers. And Title IV amended vocational rehabilitation services, helping individuals with disabilities become independent and find jobs. Changes under the Workforce Investment Act. WIOA and the final rule provided an opportunity for DINAP, the Indian and Native American programs, to align our designation period, which is competition, with the submittal of the 4-year plans. So in 2018, we will actually be going through a full competition and then moving into 4-year plans. And this allowed us to streamline the process and lessen the paperwork for both the program and the Office of Grants Management. I always refer to the Indian and Native American programs as a hybrid of competitive and non-competitive funding that goes to the state. Tribes rarely go through competition. We work with almost all the tribes across the United States unless they elect to forego the funds allocated through our formula or if they lose their grant as a result of deficiencies. Occasionally, the nonprofit organizations receive competition. But nonetheless, we still go through that competitive process. There's also an increased emphasis on equipping clients with entrepreneurial skills And this opens up the doors for many of the grantees and the TANF programs. DOL also supports the statutorily mandated Native American Employment and Training Council through the Secretary of Labor. The council has 18 members nationwide, and they represent the Section 166 program from the 6 DOL regions, and as well as other disciplines such as the Public Law 102-477 program, tribal colleges, businesses, and tribal leaders. We have 2 meetings a year that are posted in the Federal Register, and all of those meetings are open to the public. Additional changes under WIOA, we've actually raised the eligible age of youth to 24 years of age, and it changes the definition of low income to include any youth living in a high poverty area. There's a very big focus, especially on the state programs to serve out-of-school youth. But with the Indian and Native American programs, we receive low levels of funding, so the majority of our programs operate summer youth-only programs, which is another reason that I would encourage TANF programs, as well as the Section 166 grantees to form relationships with a one-stop center so that they can have broad access to all of those programs across the board. The performance measures also mirror those of the state-funded programs. They try to make consistent the way that we collect information on performance across all of the different programs. And we know that has been a challenge for our Indian and Native American grantees, especially for the youth programs. As I indicated, 2/3 of the youth grants are less than $30,000, and only 2 grants are over $1 million, and that's Navajo Nation and Alaliki in Hawaii. There's also 2 additional measures, the effectiveness in serving employers, and this is a new performance indicator, and also the customer satisfaction. These 2 measures are still being examined as to how the data will be collected, although several options have been proposed. One of the areas that they're looking at is in different state programs, and even with the Native American programs, you may have the same employer consistently putting people to work, and that's a measure of effectively working with employers. There's also a retention, how many clients retain jobs with the same employer. That's also perhaps another way that we can look at that measure. So, like I said, these 2 measures are still being examined, and the Department of Labor will be providing further guidance as we move forward. The state local workforce development boards have been significantly reduced in size by eliminating the requirement that a representative from each of the one-stop partners must be included. This means that Native American grantees are no longer required members on the board. And although Indian and Native American grantees are no longer required members, there are many areas across the country where INA programs share space. They work out of satellite offices, they utilize referrals, and other options, and these are all negotiated through the local one-stop centers. And as you know, TANF is one of the required partners at the state level, but the tribal TANF programs are, probably still examining how they would fit into that, or how they would maybe negotiate services with the Section 166 program. And in other areas, INA grantees no longer serve on the local workforce boards, but we encourage that they continue a relationship with the boards. And this includes attending meetings or sharing data on jobs. Later on in this presentation, you'll hear from CIMC, which is one of the larger organizations, and they do a very good job in negotiating memorandums of agreement with the various one-stop centers. Again, we require that all of the Indian and Native American grantees negotiate an MOU with their local one-stop, and if they cannot reach an agreement or if they reach an impasse, we ask them that they notify us so that we could see what types of challenges are out there with these with negotiating shared agreements with the one-stop centers. They're not required to provide funding to support the one-stop, but they can negotiate these costs if they utilize space. I'm going to go into an overview of the Section 166 program, although I'm sure that many of you are already familiar. We basically administer programs to provide employment and training activities for Indians, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians. This is to develop the academic, occupational, and literacy skills of such individuals, to make individuals more competitive in the workforce, and to equip them with the skills necessary for self-employment, and also to promote the economic and social development of Native communities. And our program has a reference to Public Law 93-638, which many of you have heard about, the Indian Self-Determination Act. And so we really stress that these programs utilize our cultural values in the community. Program activities, on-the-job training, hire first, train later. This is a shared agreement with an employer where the employer pays 50% of the salary and the benefits of the individual, and they make a commitment to hire that individual, and that individual can receive training or upgrading of skills as they go through the program. Classroom training, we provide educational and technical skills. Work experience, where they receive subsidized employment. They can develop desirable work habits. We ask that the employer provide them a training specific based on their occupation. Training assistance helps to transition from training and employment programs to unsubsidized employment. And other activities are general. You can support your tarot program. Supportive services pays for, in the event the client does not have access to child care services or uniforms or special licenses, supportive services are available. We have 178 grantees that are currently funded under Section 166. 55 of those grantees participate in the demonstration project under the 102-477 program. The broad mix of our grantees is that we have 477 consortiums, nonprofit, and tribes. Supplemental Youth Services Program receives $13 million, and we receive, in the regulations, it states that we receive 1.1 1.5% of the funding that goes to the state program. So it's a very minimal amount. And the Comprehensive Adult Services Program receives approximately $50 million. The good thing about this program is, again, the grantees plan and they make their final decisions as to the type of allowable activities for which funds will be expended. They have broad flexibility. They still must meet minimal requirements of regulations, but they have a say in how they design their respective programs. The programs operate on a program year basis. The program year begins July 1 and ends June 30th. For the participants to be eligible for the adult program, individuals must be American Indian, Alaska Native, or Native Hawaiian. They must be unemployed, underemployed, or low-income individual, a recipient of a bona fide layoff notice, employed but determined to be in need of employment and training services to obtain or retain employment. And this means upgrading of skills. They may be in a job that's not in their occupation that they want to be. or they may be lacking some skills and are in need of retraining or upgrading. Those are all allowable activities under our program. And the next page is a chart. I wanted to show you this chart because in the broad scheme of things, our program, as you see, is very low. I mean, we're $50 million, but there are many other programs in the Department of Labor that Native American grantees or federally recognized tribes, tribal nonprofits, and consortiums can apply for these other funding sources. Secretary Perez came out with a memorandum to all the agency heads over 2 years ago and opened up the broad scope of competition to tribes and to all Section 166 grantees, and that includes the 477 program. And we've had very good luck with some of the grantees being funded under some of those programs. We have the reintegration of ex-offenders, we have youth bills, we have the career pathways program. So these programs are all open up for competition, and those competitions are announced in funding opportunity announcements, and they're usually posted on our Community of Practice website. I want to talk a little bit or encourage you to where we can find those opportunities for working together. The American Job Centers, which are also known as the One-Stop, they will now be co-located with the unemployment insurance and the addition of TANF as a mandatory partner. So UI services are now provided through that One-Stop, and you can file your claims right at those One-Stop centers. It also promotes program coordination and alignment of education, employment, and training programs at the federal, state, local, and regional levels. And even though, as I indicated earlier, some of the Native American grantees may not be co-located in a One-Stop, they can certainly make those referrals. Excuse me. It also makes key investments in serving disconnected youth and other vulnerable populations, including the Indian and Native American programs and migrant and seasonal farm worker programs. It increases the performance and quality of the Job Corps program because they also make referrals to Job Corps programs, and reinforces those connections with registered apprenticeships. Registered apprenticeship has been one of those programs that have been highly supported by the department. State and local areas are encouraged to improve customer service and, where they can, to integrate their intake, case management, and reporting systems. At a minimum, Tribal TANF programs and the WIOA Section 166 program should closely coordinate those services to clients. So I was glad to hear at the beginning of this presentation that we might have some that already do that, but for those that are not currently doing that, I would encourage you to work with a Section 166 program, and vice versa. I will encourage the Section 166 program to work closely with the TANF program. Very much appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina Brown. With the conclusion of your presentation, we're going to jump into the second poll question, which is similar to the first. This one reads, does your Tribal TANF agency currently partner with your WIOA agency? And so we're going to give just a moment for those results to come in. Respondents should indicate either yes, no, currently exploring the possibility, or unsure. And once again, there's a lot of folks that are unsure about the nature of the collaboration. And some are saying yes, and some are exploring the possibility. So it's encouraging in many ways to see that on the whole, there's people that are interested in exploring what possibilities for collaboration do exist. Thanks again for the broad overview of WIOA, and in particular the Section 166 program for tribes. You gave a very nice overview, which points to the federal requirements and regulations, but also points to possibilities that exist. To talk a little bit about how some of these things actually play out in the field, we're going to turn to our second group of presenters, Yvette Yazzie and Christina Arzadi. Christine and Yvette, if you're on the line and ready to take it away, please feel free to unmute your phone and lead the presentation. So this is Stan Calsell. I'm just interrupting again to let other folks that might be listening in. If you're having difficulty hearing the presentation, you are not alone. We too are having difficulty hearing, and so we're hoping that we can connect with them. But please hold while we continue to reach out to them and see if they can become audible. Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead at this point in time and move to our third presenter. He is Larry Anderson, and he'll share some of his experiences at Cankdeska Cikana Community College in North Dakota as they have looked for ways to build bridges to both WIOA and Tribal TANF agents. Larry, your slides are up, and take it away.
Well, thank you, Stan, and good afternoon, everyone. As Stan mentioned, my name is Larry Anderson, and I'm with the Next Steps Project, which is a health professional opportunity grant project administered by the Cankdeska Cikana Community College on the Spirit Lake Nation in Fort Totten, North Dakota. I've been with that program now for about 4.5 years. Previous to that, I spent over 35 years in the employment and training world, workforce development. Last position I held was as the state director for workforce and unemployment insurance, so very familiar with all of the workforce legislation, as Athena was talking about, back since the days of the Manpower Development Training Act, the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, the Job Training Partnership Act, the Workforce Investment Act, and now the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. I have extensive experience also with the Wagner-Pizer labor exchange programs, the unemployment insurance programs, the Veterans Employment and Training Service programs, migrant seasonal farm worker programs, as well as the Indian and Native American programs. I thought I'd give a little background on the Next Steps project for context for people. But as you can see, the program is to empower American Indians and other low-income individuals pursuing careers in healthcare. Our particular project, or the Next Steps project, actually serves 3 of the tribal nations in North Dakota: the Spirit Lake Nation in Fort Totten, North Dakota, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe in Fort East, North Dakota, the 3 affiliated tribes in Fort Berthold, North Dakota, and then the United Tribes Technical College in Bismarck, North Dakota. Our target is American Indians who are enrolled in federally recognized tribes, recipients of TANF and low-income individuals, individuals who have experienced generations of poverty and socioeconomic hardships. Our objective for the Next Steps project was to break that generational poverty cycle by providing support to our participants in the program so that they could successfully complete an education and training program in healthcare, and that they would secure gainful employment with a wage, and in that process then break that poverty cycle and make a better life for themselves and their families. I thought it would be helpful to acquaint you with our model. To achieve those objectives, we adopted what we refer to as a mentor model. Actually, it was developed some 20 years ago at the University of North Dakota College of Nursing at the RAIN program, which is an acronym for the Recruitment and Retention of American Indians in Nursing. That particular model is a no excuses model. It's founded on the basis of providing individual mentor for each and every student, or in our case, in our HPOD program, each and every participant. That mentor then is responsible to work intensively with the student, develop a personal relationship with them, supportive, and assist that student with navigating the educational process, oftentimes coming from a reservation to a large educational institution somewhere in the state. Engage with that student, help them overcome any obstacles or barriers, assist them with any problem solving, any adversity that they might encounter. Also then to provide supportive services in the relationship to ensure that the children are cared for and their transportation needs are met, and that we use a no excuses type of approach to the individual meeting and achieving their personal goals. Under this particular model, that mentor is available on a 24/7 basis, and as I mentioned, then guides the participant through the educational process, coaches and mentors the skills necessary to succeed not only in educational pursuit but also in life. In our particular project, the mentor has responsibility for intake and eligibility, recruitment and retention, assessment, and then works with myself and other staff to ensure that upon successful completion of their education and training, then that they enter into employment in the field in which we provide the training. We are fortunate that we're in our second round of HPOD 1.0 to HPOD 2.0. Our project is now referred to as the Next Steps 2 project. The vast majority of the participants in our program are single mothers with anywhere from 1 to 4 dependents or children. The biggest challenge that we find is in moving people through the process is from generational poverty and hardship is that poor and limited academic preparation that unfortunately they often receive on the reservation schools, and then instilling in the individual the attitude and belief that they can do it, and that they can overcome and rise above circumstances that have limited them in the past and realize their dreams and goals. Our program then provides the means, but again, like all the programs that we have talked about, the individual has to believe and be willing to put in the work and effort to make it happen. More specifically, as it relates to the webinar today, we do a lot of work with partnership and relationship building. As I mentioned, I have a pretty extensive background, previous governmental appointee to the Workforce Investment Board in our state, referred to as the Governor's Workforce Development Council. Know personally the Director of the Office of Economic Assistance for the state TANF programs, have developed formal MOUs with state TANF programs, know on a first-name basis the Tribal TANF program directors, as Athena again was talking about through the Section 166, full employment and training, the 477 programs, and then the tribal new programs. Have a very extensive partnership and relationship with the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, and probably most significantly, the relationships and partnerships that we have with the private healthcare employers in the state. Some of the goals and objectives for our partnerships then are our mentor staff, strategically located in 4 service delivery areas in the state of North Dakota, are co-located in the one-stop career centers that Athena was talking about. In those centers, then, they serve as a point of referral for individuals that enter into the one-stop career center system, and vice versa. Then we refer individuals back to the workforce investment opportunity folks located within those one-stop career centers. Our ultimate goal then is to engage in concurrent enrollment for our targeted population. We recently ran into a very significant obstacle in that the state of North Dakota, because of the way the allocation process is determined for WIOA dollars, North Dakota receives a fairly small percentage of the total WIOA dollars, and they've currently exhausted all of their adult dislocated worker dollars. And the only thing they had left in the remainder of this program year is the youth dollars. Likewise, then we try to focus and maintain the relationships with the state-administered TANF programs. And our goal or objective there is to utilize the work experience program for TANF recipients, where it's important and necessary that individual gain additional work experience to assist them with their pursuit of their education and training that they might be engaged in our HPOD program with. Likewise, on the tribal side, coordinate and collaborate with tribal TANF programs, the tribal employment training programs, and the tribal 477 and WIOA programs. Again, our relationships there is for cross-referral and concurrent enrollments for applicants where if their programs are not able to provide tuition fees or services, our program can come in and back that up, or vice versa. If they can provide the tuition fees type of service, then we can come in and provide necessary support services for our jointly enrolled applicants to be successful. One of our overall goals in the project for Next Steps 2 is to attempt to secure a USDL Office of Apprenticeship recognized Department of Partnership program through the Department of Labor. And then, as I mentioned previously, the most significant effort in employer engagement is gaining commitments from the healthcare providers across the state to hire our graduates and collaborate with us in healthcare training to ensure that the individuals are meeting the expectations for their places of employment. And then we have employers that engage with us and advise us in the administration of our HPOD grant, our Next Steps program. And some of our lessons learned and best practices, I think we learned that early in our project throughout the first 5-year period that our target population is very poorly prepared and lacking in the skills necessary to navigate successfully through the education process. And there's a deficit in the essential workplace skills to find and then retain employment if they are successful in their education and training programs. To address that challenge, the project developed a very aggressive and ambitious employer engagement initiative that called for engaging with employers in the state to bring them into our program to make them aware of the program, number one. Number two, to develop that trust and that relationship with them that the program that we administer produces well-qualified and well-prepared employees to help meet their workforce needs and address the healthcare workforce issues that we have in our state. This involves in developing relationships with employers and establishing a network of employers to partner with us and guide us in directing the program to our council. We went another step beyond those with employer engagement than the customary advisory approach, but included an assessment of workforce needs with employers through a series of workforce development workshops that we invited the healthcare employers to. In that process, we engaged directly with the healthcare employers and approached them on how our program, coupled with the workforce and innovation opportunity and the apprenticeship programs, could be a means to address healthcare workforce shortages in our state. In addition to that, then we established an essential workplace skills for our students that focuses on developing the employability skills that are necessary and instill them skills in those individuals so that they're retained in the workplace. Participants in our project then work in groups and one-on-one in that skill development. It includes the kind of customary things, resumes, cover letters, interviewing, job retention, etc. And then in next steps too, we're actually building on that in our life skills, the central leadership component, focusing on the development of the communications, team building, conflict management, problem solving, and leadership skills that are so necessary in the workplace today. So ultimate goal for our project is then building better lives for individuals and their families, while concurrently addressing the critical workforce needs in our state. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing some of your experiences, Larry. It's my understanding that Yvette Yazzie and Christina Arzadi have been able to rejoin us. And so let's at this time try to go to their presentation and turn it over to them to lead us through some of their experiences.
Oh, hello. This is Christina Arzadi calling, or speaking. I just wanted to kind of share about our program a little bit. I am with California Indian Manpower Consortium. I am the Employment of Workforce Development Coordinator 3, and I am housed out of the Escondido Field Office, which is located on the Paula Reservation. We provide services to eligible adult and youth clients on the reservation in San Diego County and off the reservation in Imperial County, with an exception of our Native Employment Works program, where we can serve both on and off reservation clients. CIMC has 8 field offices throughout California, including our central office, which is located in Sacramento, California, and our Chicago-based operations in Chicago, Illinois. So we basically administer the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, Title I, Section 166 Comprehensive Service Program, funded through the Department of Labor, and the Native Employment Works Program, which is funded by the Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families, which also funds the Child Care Block Grant and Elders Program. All these programs are designed to provide tools and services to promote self-sufficiency to our clients or participants to eventually achieve or gain long-term employment. So I wanted to go ahead and give it back to Yvette so she can introduce herself.
Hello, I'm sorry for that disconnection there, but my name is Yvette Yazzie, and I'm with the California Tribal Chairmen's Association, Tribal TANF program, and I'm the Paula Site Manager. Southern California Tribal Chairmen's Association, which we call SCTCA, is a multi-service nonprofit corporation established in 1972 for a consortium of 19 federally recognized Indian tribes in Southern California. The primary mission of SCTCA is to serve the health, welfare, safety, education, cultural, economic, and employment needs of its tribal members and descendants in San Diego County reservations and off-reservation areas. SCTCA coordinates and administers the Tribal TANF program for low-income American Indian families residing in San Diego County and the service area of Santa Barbara County. That provides cash aid assistance and supportive services to eligible families. SCTCA is a nonprofit organization, 501c3, and my office is located on the Paula Indian Reservation, and we are just right down the street from the CIMC office, so it's very convenient for us to collaborate together. I will pass this to Christina, so you'll hear us going back and forth, and we'll probably just say, that's to Christina. So, thank you.
Okay, for the first slide is partnership. The CIMC and SCTCA, Tribal TANF, we've established a partnership to provide services to our mutual clientele. These services result in employment and supplemental services to our participants and their families. And I wanted to just kind of elaborate a little bit on that because our collaboration for me, because I came to the Paula office in 2007, I was actually introduced to Yvette by a previous workforce development coordinator that was here in this area before me. But in meeting Yvette, she was very open and working together. Was really open to working together with CIMC, and I believe that that's the first step, being receptive to promote that interaction for the betterment of our clients, learning enough about each one of our programs, making the right referrals, and having that open line of communication.
Our collaboration includes an informal referral process. We don't have anything written, however, we are able to provide these services. And through TANF, as we meet with our clients, we assess referrals and make appropriate referrals. And so based on the needs of our clients, we usually deliver those to CIMC. And this is informal, so ways that we communicate with CIMC could be through emails, it could be through phone calls, or we could actually just drive down to the office and help them turn in their application. It's very convenient for our participants because of the location near our office, so we are able to easily make contacts and help them apply for services. So once we establish a shared client, we use an information of release form to communicate client information. And using this information release form, this enables us to share information so we do not duplicate services, and that we also have a common career path based on the client's information. And this is also used to verify we are meeting our program performance measures and eligibility. So based on the client's goals and their career path, we coordinate cost sharing for training. And we also want to ensure that all other resources have been exhausted when we are sharing the cost of training. And one example is we want to ensure that clients apply for financial aid or other tribal resources when determining our shares for paying for the participants' training. In addition, we also coordinate cost sharing for supportive services. So this is also done to prevent or avoid duplication of services, so we assess the needs for supportive services and what benefits the client and the family may be eligible for. The supportive services with TANF may be transportation. We provide transportation to TANF participants so they may attend training. It also may be mileage reimbursement, tools, books, and other possible fees that we would pay to support this person to meet their goals. So we always make sure that we coordinate that with CIMC and provide the best services available so that they may continue with their goals. So together with CIMC, we also provide follow-up for secured employment. We both have measures that we want to meet, and we also want to make sure that participants or the client is meeting their goals, assist them with any barriers they may have. We also, once someone has secured employment, we also may share documentation. So employment verification is very important to both of our programs. That's something that CIMC may request a copy, and since we have the information release, we share that information. Also, we want to make sure that our client is on track. We both make contacts for follow-up, and apply whatever the guidelines are for our different programs. Christina will do the next slide.
Okay, so moving on to our case example. One of the first activities that we have mutually shared our clients in obtaining is the occupational skills training program. And like they discussed a little bit earlier, Brown discussed a little bit earlier, the specifics of the OJ, or the Occupational Skills Training Program. But it's an activity that provides skills training needed to complete for our clients to compete and pursue employment within their occupational goals or career path. So in occupations that are within the local job market. And for an example, we have several specific trainings that we provided with CIMC and TANF participants. The solar systems installation, where we were able to train the participants to gain the solar installation skills, elder care provider training, and then also the building inclination, where they were able to gain some construction training, and also the entrepreneurial training program, which allowed some of the TANF participants to either expand or start their own businesses, and then also our vocational training, which is like medical assisting, occupational skills that are obtained to, again, pursue employment based on their employment goals and career path. And then moving on to the OJT training activity. Again, this is an activity that allows participants to gain specific skill sets needed to gain hands-on experience with an employer that will, again, commit to retaining the participant upon completion of the OJT activity. Again, utilizing some of the tribal governments and enterprises in the local area. That placement or the duration of the OJT activity will take into consideration any previous work experience obtained by the participant. So making sure that we know our clients and that we are working with TANF in alignment, that they are pursuing their goals that are set in place by either the TANF or the CIMC case managers. And then just to elaborate a little bit more on the solar installation training, we did train 10 individuals, some of those being mutual clients with TANF. We were able to fund some of those positions, and they were transferred into our on-the-job training program and have now all been retained by the employer. So they're able to earn now a decent wage. I know that they're on the road to becoming self-sufficient, so we're really excited about that training that was provided, again, working closely with TANF and allowing the participant to really succeed and get through all of that, those programs, asking TANF to provide paperwork for us and back and forth, and just really having that conversation with them and being able to lighten, I guess, the burden on the participants, so they're not trying to get duplication of paperwork. And as long as we can share that, of course, with the permission of the client and having those documents in place to allow us to share that information. And that's going to go ahead and continue with the next slide.
Other further case examples that we have mutual clients, we also share work experience and job search placements. We both offer those services. The IMC has their program and TANF has their program. However, with work experience, we assist those with little to no experience, and they are able to gain work experience to upgrade their skills. So depending on the need of the client, they may utilize CIMC or Tribal TANF, like I said. It's really nice to work with CIMC in this area because CIMC has local placements. And it could be at the Indian Health Council, like we discussed others. Indian Health Council, tribal governments, and entities. And once someone is to that point where they're ready to go to work experience, we contact CIMC or maybe they have already made that contact and they have been placed, and it works really well because we do have a small pool of employers, and CMC has been a major help in that area. Also, job search and job placement, we both hold those types of workshops. At our office with the Tribal TANF program, we do have a computer lab where our TANF staff can assist participants one-on-one. And we work with empowering our clients to have the confidence to secure employment. We know a lot of times they are fearful of leaving the reservation and are comfortable working locally if possible, or going to any type of training locally. But we all know that eventually they're going to have to make that choice to probably go off reservation. So we do support them in that area as well. So in our job search and job placement workshops, we help them with navigating job search websites such as Native Hire. Native Hire has Native preference. A lot of their employers offer Native preference, so we try to work with those employers as possible. We also share local job announcements. So that is really nice and convenient. We email them back and forth. We email them to our clients. And we share those, and that has been very helpful as well. And we also hold workshops, like I said. Some of the workshops that we hold are self-sufficiency workshops, creating resumes and cover letters, of course, and also offer interview skills. And CIMC offers soft skills, and so we've had many clients attend that workshop as well. And it's very convenient to work together to assist participants. Participants have a lot of support to gain employment between working with the TANF staff and working with Christina and her staff. We also share documentation for job search and work experience, and such as, the job search log, workshop attendance, and other supplements that are provided in those areas. So we want to avoid duplication, but at the same time, we want to offer them as much as we can through our program so that they may be successful and they may retain their positions in the area. I will move it on to Christina.
Okay, moving on to the next slide, which is accomplishments and outcomes. Our clients were able to secure long-term employment, become self-sufficient. Our TANF or their TANF caseloads have been closed, and then they're no longer dependent on public assistance. And knowing that we've empowered them to become great role models for their children and community is also something that we've shared, and we've been able to see with a lot of the clients that are seeking service or gaining services from either one of our agencies. I did want to also add that our, CIMC really, which is South Indian Manpower, supports the collaboration with Southern California Tribal Chairman, Tribal TANF, and will continue its long-standing partnership that allows both programs to interact on behalf of the client, sharing program services and resources. It's been a great experience, and I hope that, any relationship, any collaboration, it can always be improved. And, going through this presentation, we do probably have some other work that we can do better communications and just keeping this open line of communication with each agency so we can help the clients again achieve self-sufficiency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to both of you for sharing some of your experiences. With the completion of your presentation, we're going to move to the third poll question, and it asks, do the Tribal TANF participants in your agency, do the Tribal TANF participants your agency serves struggle to find job training? And as the responses to this one come in, it's much more decisive. It looks as though there's strong interest among the clients that you're serving to find job training, but that it's a struggle for them. So with the conclusion of the 4 panelists and 3 presentations. We do have some time still available for questions. If you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A chat box that's located on your screen. And if you have a question for a specific presenter, please indicate that in the question that you submit. So please take time to ask any questions that you have. While folks are preparing any questions that they might have, there's a couple of things that I'll prompt the panel to talk a little bit more about. In particular, when Larry was talking about the youth funds not being spent, Athena Brown, who's in the room with us, her ears perked up a little bit about that. And so maybe you, Athena, could say a little bit more about what might be available in terms of youth funds and a little bit more about the shift that's taken place.
Well, there's options for spending the youth funds, and I think that over the years, people get sometimes stuck in moving beyond the way that the older programs were once administered. So now there's the option for year-round programs. So even though we have very small funded grantees who receive minimal funds for sometimes thinking that they're only going to operate summer youth programs, if they have funds available, you could always use those funds for tutoring students throughout the school year or after-school activities or paying for books or things like that. So you have to think out of the box on how to spend those funds and think about your options. I think that there's a lot of flexibilities in the law and in the regulations that allow for that.
You also mentioned sort of offline that Cankdeska Cikana Community College is not alone in their efforts to establish an apprenticeship program. You want to say a little bit more about that?
Yes, we had a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and the Office of Apprenticeships in the Department of Labor informed during that webinar that there are 25 tribal apprenticeships out there. And I believe that they provided us with that information, and we will be providing that on our Community of Practice website. And I think that looking at those apprenticeships across the country and identifying where they are and identifying where you can tap into those apprenticeships or maybe get a registered apprenticeship program is an option available. So apprenticeship, the stackable credentials in areas like healthcare, law enforcement, IT, information technology. There are many potential apprenticeships out there that are specific to Indian country, and so I would encourage you to look into those apprenticeship opportunities.
Thank you. Jennifer, I understand you have a question.
Yes, we have about 4 questions that have come in. The first one is supportive services. If the person doesn't have a high school diploma or high school equivalent, does it help with the expenses for attending the courses to complete a high school equivalent?
Yes. You can help a client prepare for getting their GED. You can pay for supplies. You can pay for books and any type of supportive service necessary to get that person either trained or into employment.
Great. We have another question. Any partnering agencies provide services to individuals with disabilities?
Yes. There's we support any individual with disabilities, but we also have an office of adults with disabilities, and they serve youth as well. And so they receive very specific funding under the Office of Workforce Investment, and it's one of the nationally administered programs. There's a lot of information on our website. I would encourage you to go on that website and look at the point of contact.
Okay. We have another question. What type of programs do WIOA and DOL offer for tribal members who are ex-convicts that are having a very hard time finding employment?
Right now, I don't believe that there are any specific tribally funded reintegration for ex-offender programs, but there are at the state level, and they also serve anybody who walks through the door who is eligible.
Okay.
And there is a listing of those projects as well on the website.
Another resource that I would just generally point people towards, and they may already be aware, but grants.gov enables you to register your organization and also enables you to be contacted, essentially, should any funding opportunities emerge that fit with your profile as you set it up in grants.gov. So that would be one way of being notified of opportunities that do emerge. For example, in the Office of Family Assistance, there has been funding in the past couple of years for responsible fatherhood programs that focus on reentry. I'm also aware of programs at SAMHSA that have funded some reentry programs. I don't know that any of those are tribally specific, but again, if you go to grants.gov and indicate the kinds of grants that you're interested in applying for, you can be notified of opportunities as they emerge.
Great. We have another question. Could stipends be made available for adults and youth participating in volunteer activities?
Can you repeat the question, Jennifer?
Could stipends be made available for adults and youth participating in volunteer activities?
The answer is yes. We do pay stipends, but it depends on the policies written by the program. So each of the tribal programs and oftentimes have policies around allowable stipends.
And so Athena just responded from the DOL perspective, and we'd have to check a little bit further to see. We would want to understand more about your program from a tribal TANF perspective. Cash assistance is available, and there's very often a work requirement that goes with that. And I'm not 100% certain about the idea of providing a stipend on top of the cash assistance for the volunteer work, which would essentially count as a work activity. So that's a long way of saying we'd like to know more about the specifics of the things you're planning, if that's something that you're interested in doing.
I think for the workforce investment, workforce innovation and opportunity program, it does have to be tied to an allowable activity. So again, it depends on the policy set in place by the program.
And Athena, they'd like you to tell them what your website is again.
Website.
Oh, the website? Sure.
I think that was on her last slide.
It's https://www.coleta.DINAP/. Yes, it's on the last slide.
And for those of you that were looking for that website, we have put up the last slide so that you can copy down the website address.
I would very much encourage you to also register for the Community of Practice website, because we post all of the funding opportunity announcements, not only through our program, but for all the different competitive programs that are available to tribes and nonprofit organizations.
I just want to add one more thing, and that is when thinking about looking for ways to coordinate between TANF and WIOA, I can imagine that there's some tribes that have tribal TANF, but not the Section 166 program. And conversely, there's probably programs that have the Section 166 program, but not a tribal TANF program. And the tribes are going to have to assess for themselves, to some extent, whether it makes most sense to reach out to a sister tribal program, or whether to look to the state in terms of forming collaborative partnerships. I just want to pause to extend one more thank you to all of the panelists who joined us today. We thank you so much for your experience and sharing the things that you've learned. We hope that this has been a valuable webinar to those that have joined us, and we look forward to receiving your feedback about that, and look forward to joining you virtually or in person sometime again soon. Thanks so much for joining today, and so long.